Looks like the model's got a loose number plate and missing an exhaust. I'm just trying to build the back of the Ferrari. So this bar along here is a bit too low. So the back panel, just cut a piece of alley, roughly is going to sit up at that sort of height. This is the board that has the lights on. So I'm just going to cut the end off these tubes and shorten it and raise it up, because from this back panel it has to sort of roll under for the rear valance. The rear lights, a lot of details are quite difficult to find. So we've got like an indicator at the top, stop tail light below, and then a square reflector or rectangular reflector. Reflector's quite easy to find, so I'm always looking around for potential lights for different projects. So this is a marker light for a trailer. It's like a rubber housing with two lenses, single bit holder in the middle. So pop the lenses out, and that gives a 45mm by 30mm high lens, just the right size for what I'm looking for. And then the top one, which is clear, I'll just spray that with some amber tint to be an indicator. And then I'll make up a rectangular reflector to go below them. So I've been looking for some 5-inch lights for some time. These again on eBay, fairly cheap, look horrendous. So this comes off, leaving a light that I can work with. Just going to be using the reflector section of this, so I'll lose the aluminium housing, sorry, the plastic housing. Plastic. That'll give me a headlight to put behind the plastic perspex cover, so aero cover at the front. I'll be just heating up some acrylic sheet to get the cowl at the front, but I'll do that once the front end is held in place on the chassis. So that's the rear section cut away and cleaned up. I'm just going to add a bit more bracing to make this rear section a bit more rigid around the axle, and for something else that's coming in the post next week. This is a little bit later. You can see that I've added these crosses here, extra steady across there and across there, and this bar that goes across there. So that's stiffened up the axle mount, made it a bit more rigid. That's roughly where the rear panel is going to go, and the roof line. This is a little bit further on, contemplating petrol engine as well as electric. This is a mini moto engine, 48cc 2-stroke. That's about the right position it needs to be for the chain drive. I've had another sprocket in line there, or I could move the motor mount over, which is there, more central, so that I could use the same carrier for both, because the carrier has a machined section on each side, so I could run 2 sprockets side by side. I need to add a little bit of spacing so that the chains will run side by side. Then I have a two-stroke at the back, electric motor at the front. I thought about using a kart engine, but they're quite heavy. This is quite light. This is about 2 kilos. This is supposed to be a racing spec one with a different head and bigger carb. I've actually looked at it and it's not that great really. So I've got some tuning bits for it. This is about 2.2 kilos and it's supposed to have 2.5 brake horsepower, but I think it's a bit less than that. So I looked into tuning it up a bit. So I've got some pieces here. So quick strip down of the mini moto engine. Reveals a very small hole through the manifold. It's got a lot of casting flash in there. The carb is actually, the bore size of it is only 12mm, so that's pretty small. Looks impressive with a big filter, but rubbish really. The reed pack is minute, tiny little reeds, so that's obviously restricting the induction. The barrel and everything comes off. I've taken the rings off the piston already. It's got some very strange ports where it's using the piston to separate the ports. And it's got a bizarre thing because it's got ports in the piston for timing, or boost ports in the cylinder, and the cylinder doesn't have anything to line up with those. It's a bit odd. So ultimately I could use something like a kart engine, but they're quite heavy. I was looking at the Rotax 125. That has 12, 14 horsepower, but it weighs about 25 kilos, and that's going to be pretty difficult to lose that weight in the car. I was looking at kind of 40 kilos for the car, so I thought I could raise the output of this. I think I can get it up to a reasonable figure by making it water-cooled. So I ordered some bits on eBay, so I got this water-cooled cylinder, which is much bigger bore. This is a 48 and this is a 44. Obviously being water-cooled, it's much more efficient. The ports are much bigger, so I should be able to get much more power from it. I'm looking at 8 to 10 brake horsepower, and with this bore size it should be about 65cc. It's an aluminium barrel and head, and also that would give me the option of putting a heater in the car, because it can get pretty cold in the UK. I remember the last time I was testing the Ferrari, when it was first done, it was actually snowing when Scarlett was driving it. So a couple of other things I got: a bigger carb. This is the 26mm Mikuni, which are not really much money, sort of 20 quid. And a bigger reed block. This one is from a Gilera Runner or a Peugeot Speed Fighter. So it's actually got 3 petals or reeds instead of 2, and a larger effective area. So I can machine this reed to fit in the case. I have to do a bit of machining on the bottom of the barrel, make this dimension a bit smaller in diameter and cut them a bit shorter. going to need to do a little bit of welding on the transfer port area, because these are a bit tight. I can lose the fans on here because it won't need to be fan cooled. So I probably run part of this because I'll want to use an electric starter, which I'll make the drive through there using that toggle and working on the end of the crank. This is also the pickup for the ignition. It's got some steel inserts in that aluminium flywheel, so I might need to move the little coil a bit further around so it's out of the way of the barrel. When that barrel's on there, it will be overhanging a bit, but it should be much more efficient being water cooled, much bigger ports, bigger carb, and I think I can keep it under 5 kilos for the radiator, the water and all the bits and pieces. I've got a second-hand Peugeot Speed Fighter inlet manifold, which I'll just use as a flange. You can see that's actually pretty small. Make that a bit bigger. Go with the racing reed valve set, and then I've got a second-hand KTM 65 expansion chamber, which should be about the right size for the engine I'm looking at. I might need to cut and weld that quite a bit to get it to fit in at the back of the car, and also that will give me the 4 exhausts at the back, which will then work, which will look a bit better. That is some progress for now. I'm just going to start doing a bit more alloy bodywork.